Kash Patel is dropping bombshell evidence today, evidence that could make the case against Charlie Kirk's assassin an absolute slam dunk. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio has a clear warning for visa holders celebrating Charlie's death. Pack your bags because you could be on the first flight home. And I say, send Don Lemon with them, because wait until you see his disgusting display of disrespect on the streets as he tries to smear Charlie's message. But here's the good news. Everyday Americans weren't having it, and their reaction, it's going to give you some hope. Plus, I'm going to play Charlie's own words, the kind of words that shut down Don Lemon's talking points before he even opens his mouth. And then later, we're going to take you inside yesterday's powerful memorial in Washington with highlights from leaders, friends, and J.D. Vance, who stepped in today to host the Charlie Kirk Show. Hate tried to silence him, but Charlie's legacy is louder than ever right here on The Kerri Lane Show. We want to begin the show with some breaking news that is just coming into the studio. The Washington Post is now reporting that the man suspected of assassinating Charlie Kirk has confessed to the killing. In fact, he did it the following day on a group chat on Discord, and he apparently wrote, quote, "Hey guys, I have bad news for all of you. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this." Now, Kash Patel is also revealing explosive new details about Charlie Kirk's would-be assassin. For the first time, Patel confirms forensic evidence is linking the suspect directly to the weapon and even that screwdriver that was left behind on that rooftop.
And I can report today that the DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody.
And it gets worse. Investigators also uncovered a chilling written message from the shooter, a note that was later destroyed, but thanks to forensic evidence, they were able to piece it together and find out exactly what it said.
The written note, we believe, what did exist, and we have evidence to show what was in that note, which is, and I'm going to summarize, basically saying, the suspect wrote a note saying, "I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." That note was written before the shooting. Evidence of its existence, we now have learned, existed before the shooting, was in the location in the suspect and partner's home. But we have since learned that the note, even though it has been destroyed, we have found forensic evidence of the note, and we have confirmed what that note says because of our aggressive interview posture at the FBI.
Patel also addressed the confusion that was surrounding the first two suspects that they took into custody. Critics, they hammered him for claiming they had somebody in custody only to then later release both of those individuals. Here's what Kash Patel had to say on that this morning.
Well, as it's now been publicly reported, some of these people were taking claims for this horrific act of violence and they had nothing to do with it. Others were working what we call a daisy chain analyses, and this is where the cell phone data dumps are so important. We're seeing who talked to who, not just in chat groups. We're seeing who texted who was around who. We're using our geofencing capabilities to map out exactly where individuals were, and then we're also getting into their personal cell phone information to say, were you calling so-and-so, were you texting so-and-so? And we know the suspect was communicating with folks, but as I've said, that cell phone tower information, you got to get it the right way, with search warrants, with lawful authority, so that our prosecutors can use it in court for whatever investigations they decide to prosecute.
So now we have DNA that ties the assassin to the crime scene, a written confession recovered after being destroyed, communications showing coordination, and now even a text message confirming the suspect targeted Charlie because of his beliefs.
He had a text message exchange, he, the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
Did they know, were they sure of this, or did they hear this and just write it off? That's what we're going to have to find out.
This case is no longer just about one deranged gunman. It is exposing this network of hate and a culture that is enabling and even celebrating political violence. In fact, we're now getting a look at some of the messages the assassin was exchanging with others in a group chat shortly after the murder. Take a listen.
His friends in this group chat, and many people in these group chats aren't using their real names. It seems like in this case he was, because they refer to him as Tyler and they talk about Charlie. But he sees the guy on the video who looks just like him. He says, "Oh, that's a doppelganger, that's my twin." And one of the other people says, "Whatever you do, don't go to a McDonald's anytime soon." And we all know that's where Luigi Mangione, the United Healthcare CEO, alleged killer, that's where he was caught. And then they go back back and forth on the reward, the $100,000 reward for any information. He says, they say, oh, we're going to turn you in. He says, only if I get a cut. And then he's joking, better get rid of this manifesto and the exact copy rifle that I have lying around.
So disturbing to think that somebody like Tyler Robinson could be so cavalier after taking somebody's life. We'll continue to follow this. It'll be interesting to see if anybody else is held accountable for knowing some of that information and withholding it from law enforcement. Now, lawmakers, they are now demanding action, not just against the shooter, but against anyone who comes to this country and joins in glorifying an assassination.
We should not be giving visas to people who are going to come to the United States and do things like celebrate the murder, the execution, the assassination of a political figure. We should not. And if they're already here, we should be revoking their visa. Why would we want to bring people into our country that are going to engage in negative and destructive behavior?
And it's not just foreign nationals. Right here at home, we are seeing Americans doing the very same thing, celebrating Charlie's death out in the open, cheering, laughing. I mean, it is all sick. And I will never understand how any human being can justify that kind of hatred. And let's be honest, many of these same people are the ones who turned George Floyd into their martyr. I'll tell you this, I will take Charlie Kirk every single day as my martyr over their choice of a drug-addicted criminal who terrorized his community. But here's something you probably haven't seen. A nurse in New Jersey is now being punished, suspended indefinitely without pay, for daring to call out a doctor who was celebrating Charlie's death right there in the hospital.
Are you fired?
No, I'm not fired as of right now. Right now, I am suspended indefinitely unpaid.
Why?
So I walked into the nurse's station and I just had learned about Charlie Kirk. I saw this guy. I didn't know who he was at the time, and he was standing there celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, saying how he deserved it, he hated Charlie Kirk, and he had it coming to him. I look down, I see his badge, and it says doctor, and I said, you're a doctor? I said, how are you saying this as a doctor, that someone deserved to die? I mean, to me, I was just mind blown.
Think about this for just a second. If the roles were reversed, if a nurse was celebrating George Floyd's death and a doctor called her out, do you think the doctor would have been suspended without pay? Not a chance. The media would have made him a hero. He'd be trending on every platform. Now, I will give credit where credit is due. The hospital has since suspended the doctor and they pulled his name from the website, but that doesn't erase the injustice of suspending a nurse for standing up for what's right. This is the world we live in now, where speaking truth and urging your coworkers to respect human life actually costs you your career? Bill Maher summed up the left perfectly. Take a listen to this.
They're the people who don't want to talk. It's my main issue with them. And Charlie Kirk was a guy who, he was always talking. And I talked to him here. You know, the right-wingers say what you want about them, but they talk to you. They're not into this leftist thing. The left really has much more of a, I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable, I can't break bread with you. Yeah. That attitude, and all the right-wingers, they don't have that attitude. No, again, I didn't vote for them. And Charlie Kirk and I certainly don't agree on much politically. But he sat here, he's a human being, he's not a monster.
And a husband and a father.
Yes. And I liked him. I liked them all. They're all nice people when you meet them in person. And they're not as crazy as they would. Nobody's as crazy as they make them out to be.
And that's the problem with the left's rhetoric. They so easily dehumanize the right, which is, as Charlie said, makes violence that much easier to commit. Now, speaking of the crazy left, check out Don Lemon, who is now on a mission for some reason to defame Charlie. I really wish Erica Kirk would sue this man. Watch this.
What do you think would happen to Charlie Kirk?
It's just messed up, totally messed up. You know, that was messed up. Nobody deserved that. He definitely didn't deserve that. He was a good guy.
You think he was a good guy?
I think he was.
Don Lemon, you are disgusting. After you relentlessly defended George Floyd, you are now going to question whether Charlie was a good guy? Newsflash, I have the tape of you acting distraught over the loss of a criminal who I think we can all agree didn't deserve to die like he did, but he certainly wasn't a patriot.
If you look at the video of him, the coldness that he has for his actions, he has just taken someone's life. Who wouldn't be angry if you see someone killing someone on the street with total impunity? and sitting there just like nothing is happening. I would be angry because I see my nephew in George Floyd. I see my uncle. I see my father. I see the man down the street.
You were outraged when someone was murdered in broad daylight in the case of George Floyd. But now you're showing the same coldness that you criticize when the victim is Charlie Kirk. Where's the anger you said everyone should feel when a life is taken? Does it only apply if the victim is Black? Because if that's the case, then the real bias is coming from you. And now in true irony, here's Don Lemon trying to convince a Black woman that Charlie was anti-woman and anti-Black. Next, I'm going to play you Charlie's own words that completely dismantle the lie. But first, here's Lemon.
I can't really tell you what to believe in or how to feel. Like, everybody's having a human experience. Like, why knock him for having this human experience or what he believes in?
Even though even though he says things that are anti-women, Black, all that.
I can't judge him for that.
You can't.
I can't judge him for that. But I can use judgment. He didn't deserve that.
That woman had the perfect response to Don Lemon, and this is exactly why Democrats are losing the Black vote. See, they just expect everybody to fall in line blindly, but people are thinking for themselves now. The only critique I have, she didn't push back hard enough on Lemon's lies, claiming that Charlie Kirk was anti-women and anti-Black. Maybe she didn't know. But let me be clear. Charlie was one of the strongest champions for protecting women and ensuring fairness in sports.
So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports,
right.
that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
As a woman, I always felt Charlie had my back, and I know his wife felt the same. And as far as the lies about him being anti-Black, somebody needs to get this clip to Don Lemon, because watch Charlie's honesty, respect, and compassion as he engages with a Black man who started out challenging him and ends up seeing the truth and agreeing with him.
When segregation ended, right, Black people, or when slavery ended, actually, Black people were just forced wherever, right? So they had nowhere to go. And then there was laws put in place to put them into prison, and after...
Okay. It's okay. No. What's your name? Guys, what's your name? Jackson. It takes a lot of courage to come up here.
Yeah, no,
Let's just take a deep breath. I'm not here to pick on you.
No,
and I appreciate it. No, it's okay. I know that this can be very intimidating getting to a crowd like this, so just take a deep breath. Let me make your argument. I'm going to make your argument for you, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's wrong. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the argument that is being made that you want to make is that there's legacies of injustice.
Yes.
And that those legacies impact one generation after the other. And when those things get handed down, you have what is a system or a systemic issue that isn't just isolated in 2024. So the argument that you're making is that what happened in 1954 does impact 2024 of decade after decade after decade. Let me tell you my response to that. Of course, there is some truth to that. However, every culture, every person in this audience can point to issues that families or generations prior had that were able to overcome. So the question is, why is it that Black America is one of the only populations, that and Native American populations, that have not been able to overcome such evil, horrors, and injustices? Here's my perspective, and I want to hear what you have to say, is that the number one way to keep people out of poverty, lower the crime rate, and have a better society is whether or not you have a mom and a dad around. Would we agree that's an ideal? Yeah? Cool. Yeah. And so what happened in 1964 is that 25% of Black youth were raised by a single mom. Today, it's nearly 75%, about 70%. So that means that 1 in 4 Black kids will have a father around. Only 1 in 4. That's the number one issue happening in the country, and it's not because of systemic racism. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay, so I think I misjudged you at first. Like, when you brought up the 1350 stat, I had just assumed that it was inherently eugenics based, kind of, so, and that's where mine came from. I think we are on the same page that we know what the problem is, and that's what I mean.
Thank you for saying that, because I think we actually have a lot more in common in this country than the media would ever believe.
No, definitely.
Right?
That is the magic of Charlie. Charlie Kirk never shield away from telling the truth. He knew the strength of a nation starts with the strength of its families. And as you just saw, he warned about the damage of fatherless homes, about what happens when single motherhood is glorified instead of breaking that vicious cycle. He challenged Black families, especially to reject that trap and build stronger foundations so their children could escape poverty and thrive. And now, tragically, Charlie's own children are facing the very pain he spent his life trying to spare others from, growing up without their father. It is heartbreaking. But it's also a reminder that the fight for family, for fathers, for faith, Charlie would want that fight to go on. And so now it's up to us to carry that torch, because we certainly know the media is not going to do it for us.
We live in an America of cancel culture, and it is the cancel culture on the right now that is leading the charge. And the hypocrisy, I've been writing something about this, the hypocrisy on the right about free speech is, I mean, it's off the charts. Because think about it. If you actually believed in what Charlie Kirk said he believed in, didn't quite practice all the time, is free speech, then why are you out to cancel people who are using their First Amendment right of free speech to tell you how they feel about Charlie Kirk by using his own words? It doesn't make sense because Charlie Kirk didn't make sense, and so the response is irrational.
Charlie Kirk was murdered, and this vile human being is trying to whine about people losing their jobs? People who celebrated a man shooting another in cold blood over his beliefs? Do you see? It's not just Donald Trump now getting the left to choose the least popular side of every issue. It's now Charlie Kirk who has the left defending this senseless act. It is disgusting. Now, as for the folks that still work at CNN, they're trying to place the blame on President Trump, saying he's the one turning up the temperature. Here's Representative Tim Burchett humiliating the network on live television this morning.
It should be expected to start from the leaders. It should be expected to start from a president of the United States to move forward and bring that temperature down. If he is not going to, what do you do with it? What do you do about it?
Well, what do you all do with it? You keep putting it out. If you all truly wanted this to change in the media at CNN and other places, your editorial board would say, we're not gonna put this stuff out, but yet you continue to put it out, and that continues to stir the base. Man, we had a hearing last week on UFOs.
I'm creating a conversation, and I have been, and I take pride in the fact that we do bring the temperature down on this program.
You all need to look within at CNN if you want to continue down this path, because clearly your ratings show that. And the conservative movement is showing that they're not watching you because of that. If you all truly had some objective reporting instead of constantly attacking conservatives and Republicans, then there would be a change, I think. But there's not going to be a change. You all don't want to change down deep. Maybe you do, ma'am, but I dare say that the vast majority of your colleagues do not.
And that's the game the media plays on repeat, right? They twist the narrative, they blame President Trump, and then they refuse to take any accountability for the role they played in any of these events. But the good news is, outside of that bubble, in the real world, people know exactly who Charlie Kirk was. A joyful warrior, a man of faith, a husband, and a father who poured into others. And that's why tributes have been pouring in from close friends like J.D. Vance, who had the lovely honor of filling in for Charlie Kirk today on his show, and other leaders and allies who came together yesterday in Washington to honor Charlie's life. Take a look.
J.D. Vance here, live from my office in the White House complex, and filling in for somebody who cannot be filled in for, but I'm going to try to do my best, my dear friend, the great Charlie Kirk. The last several days have been extremely hard for our country. They've been hard for me, hard for my family, hard for the countless people in this building who knew and loved Charlie Kirk. And of course, they've been hardest most of all for his darling wife, Erica, and their two beautiful children. The thing is, every single person in this building, we owe something to Charlie. He was a joyful warrior for our country. He loved America. He devoted himself tirelessly to making our country a better place.
My 17-year-old niece left for Europe to go to college. And while she was packing, her mother, Amaryllis, my daughter-in-law, noticed that she had put a Bible in her suitcase. And Amaryllis was curious about it. And she asked her, and Zoe said to her, I want to live like Charlie Kirk.
Every soldier lives this fact, this truth. I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death for your right to say it. Charlie lived by this principle. Charlie lived by the principle that no matter how horrible another person's speech may be, their ideas must be defeated by better ideas, not by resorting to violence.
And one by one, no matter how controversial the question was, he would dismantle them with his reasoning. And that's when I realized something. Charlie Kirk didn't need college. College needed Charlie Kirk.
Charlie's going to be remembered for politics, but he's going to be remembered most for bringing people to God. Let me just read a couple of these because they moved me to tears today. I'm going to church because that's exactly where Charlie would want us to be, said one post. One post said, my husband and I are going to try diving into this journey with our children for the first time ever since Wednesday when Charlie died. Another person said, I just bought a Bible. I haven't been to church in 10 years. My body hurts, my brain hurts, I need rest, and I only know one way to find it. Another person said, I bought my first Bible on Friday. First Bible I've ever owned, and I'm finally seeing the light of it. We're stepping forward and we're going to save this republic. You got us going. You gave us a voice. You gave us the strength. And we're going to carry on so that we can find the freedom that you have. We love you, Charlie. We miss you. God bless you all.
Charlie Kirk's voice and his fight for truth, faith, and strong families will not be silenced. And I am promising you all today, right here, that I will do my part to keep pushing the truth and to help his movement live on. Because his vision, it deserves to inspire generations to come. And his legacy will most certainly never be forgotten. As for the alleged assassin, he is due in court tomorrow for his very first appearance. I will be following that closely and have all those details in tomorrow's video. In the meantime, the suspected shooter's neighbor absolutely stuns the press after describing a firsthand account of Tyler Robinson and his romantic partner. For all those details, go ahead and click on that video you see now on your screen and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching.